Good morning, I'm Aziff Azuddin. You're watching Money Headlines and it's the 3rd of September. Now to the guy who commented about my hair last week, not today. Now there seems to be a bit of a division in today's papers, especially across the Malay and English language. So on the English side, we have News Straits Times, The Star, The Sun, all talking about Muhyiddin's latest move in the education sector and that now English will be made a compulsory subject to pass in universities. Now, about 10 years ago, the Ministry of Education made English subject language that you had to study for science and maths, right? But what's interesting is that there was a whole debate between whether it should be Malay, whether it should be English, and right now the government has pushed it back to English. But that's on secondary level. What's interesting now is that they're trying to make it compulsory on the tertiary level. So that does say something about our graduates who are not comprehensive enough in the language, right? But my biggest question here, by making English compulsory, does it necessarily address critical thought? Does it necessarily address a graduate's skill in critical thought and analytical thinking, where graduates are supposed to think on their feet and are supposed to be able to think much more further than what they're given? Now, this is a skill which, of course, most of graduates lack and most employers have already said to be a problem. Just because you change it to English language does not mean it makes people smarter. On a side note, gotta love the graphics that they use. This looks like a whiteboard and this looks like a blackboard. Now, next story on our list is the Penang Voluntary Patrol Squad, which of course was recently hauled up by PDRM. So what's the deal with this, guys? Malay Mail brings us a few questions, and first of all, it's a question of how people with criminal records and drug abuse cases were actually absorbed into the squad, right? Which does question the procedures behind screening these people. So, is the PPS really taking in people without, proper procedures? But also whether these people have received proper training, because there are cases of assault being done by these people. What I find troubling is, of course, is that IGP Khalid has, of course, taken a very, very extreme stance, saying that anyone insulting the PDRM will be hauled up and there will be no forgiveness for these people. Now, just because you're in a high position of power doesn't exactly give it the directive to abuse the law to as you see fit. Now, I'm sure, police get abuse hurled at them on a daily basis, so do journalists and so do many people from other fields. There's a line to draw between criticism and insult. And one of the things we have to keep in mind is that why did the PPS come about? One is because the people are obviously not happy with how the police are dealing with things. So the biggest question here is that if the government cannot deal with this unhappiness, if the government cannot deal with this inadequacy within society, of course they'll be angry. And let's just hope that the law settles this fair and square. Now, on to Utusan, always out to be very unhappy with what the opposition has to say. So there's a lot of negative statements here if you're interested in reading this sort of things. Now, Berita Harian takes on a different trajectory altogether with the headline Armada Tour. Now, apparently our Navy fleet is outdated. Apparently speedboats are faster than us. Cost about 3 million to 15 million to maintain our Navy fleet, which does question our maritime security, especially around the areas of Sabah and Sarawak, where there has been a lot of kidnapping cases in the past few months. There's a very technical story. I'm not sure why it made the front page. But what's interesting on the inside pages of Berita Harian, if you flip over to page 14, now they have a headline here, Strategi Jahat Musuh Pecah Belahkan Islam. Now, this is in the current reportage of the story of the Saudi government planning to move the Prophet Muhammad's tomb to another place because of the fear of deviant sects, right? Turning it into some sort of a holy shrine, or so to speak. Now, what I find problematic is with how this reporting is done. As though the Western media is trying to present Muslims in a bad light, whereas in this case, if you look at the politics surrounding Saudi, the Saudi government, which has Wahhabi and Salafi influence, has always been extreme on its sense, where they are trying to demolish this sort of holy shrine, so to speak, move away the Prophet's tomb. And this is all in the wave of extremism and fundamentalism, right? So I think the reportage done on the side of Western media is very reasonable in its sense. And this has nothing to do with Hina Islam, if that's what you want to think about. So why the antagonism? Why do we feel so defensive about this? The thing we should be questioning is why the Saudi government wants to move the tomb in the first place. And my word of the day today is pass. Not pass P-A-S, but P-A-S-S, pass as in to get by things. We are in midst of sedition acts and laws being used for their own nefarious purposes. So will this bad times pass? And will the laws pass? Is also a question at hand. Will this laws pass fairly? And that's all I have for you for this morning headlines. I'm Aziff Azuddin for BFM 89.9.